Hello, I'm IBX Tweaker, and if you played Minecraft console for any extended period of time, you've probably noticed that there are some serious problems in the connection. And although a part of this problem is the fact that it's entirely peer-to-peer based, whereas the PC version is based on servers, the console version, you are your own server as well as hosting the game, which does cause some of the problems. Some of the problems are entirely avoidable, so I'm going to be teaching you how to fix those today. So to preface the video, I'm currently studying networking at college, so I'd like to think I have an above average knowledge when it comes to networking, routers and whatnot, and yeah, a lot of this isn't even routing specific, it's about Minecraft in general. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the video with our first pro tip for you, which is the most basic one and probably you might already know. Basically minimize the number of people that are on your network doing heavy things such as Netflix, such as uploading videos. These two things in particular can drain your connection because your router quality of service, which is basically what determines which packets go in and out, because you only have a certain amount of it, generally favors video and uploads and stuff because it's generally more important that you get smooth video than other things getting through. However, they don't favor gaming packets at all, which means they'll just go missing, and this will really drop your connection a lot. So if you're just playing multiplayer for half an hour and it's really important that you get the best connection, tell everyone else in your connection, if there's other people that generally do heavy things, if they could please not for the next 15 minutes. Again, that's a basic one most people know, but just in case you've got like 5 other people all downloading, watching Netflix, and you're like, why isn't my connection doing well? That's a basic one you want to bear in mind, is minimizing the number of people on your connection. So something I've noticed in particular with my streams, which is something I do a lot, with 2 people in a game, you'll generally have almost perfect connection, unless both your connections are horrible, in which case you'll still have some lag. But generally speaking, with 2 people, there's never any lag at all. With 4 people, you generally get a smooth game, like 90% of the time. And then as you move up to 6 and 8 people, because there's so much more netcode flying around, everyone's connecting to everyone else, it just increases and increases the lag. So with 8 people, unless you're already close together and you all have amazing connections, there's generally going to be some lag and some undesired effects. So just bear that in mind. The more people in the game, the more lag it's going to be. If 4 of you are trying to play survival and there's like 2 AFK people in the world, if you kick them, it can be a significant, improvement to the connection. So it might be worth considering. Next up, this is one a lot of people don't consider, even though it's a pretty basic rule of networking. Basically, if you switch to wired internet, it will usually improve your stuff. So wireless is generally worse, best case scenario, only the tiniest bit worse than wired, and it's a lot more convenient for a lot of people, especially on consoles where it's built in, like the Xbox One, like the PS4. But this convenience does sacrifice quality, and a lot of bad stuff happens. And as I said, even in the best case scenario, it's a tiny bit worse. In a worst case scenario, where there's loads of interference between you and your router, there's going to be so many drop packets, it's going to be a mess, and basically it's bad for gaming. If you want to get the best out of your connection, this is especially true for competitive, where even, the tiniest improvement helps. But you want to basically make sure you're going wired if you can. Sometimes it's a difficult ask. If you can't, then try and be as close to your wireless router as you can. Whatever it takes, you just need to make sure there's as little interference as possible. The easiest way is to go wired. Wires are brilliant. And if you are using a wire, this is just a pro tip. Try and make sure you're using the right type of wire. I'll link some cables in the description that will cost like $2. You need to use the latest cables because some Ethernet cables are really slowed down. And just buy a new one if you think your cable is the problem. 99 times out of 100, your cable isn't the problem, but it's a $2 test, and worst case scenario, you have a free cable. So yeah, I'll leave some links if you're from the US or the UK to buy some Cat5e Ethernet cables, which is basically just the latest standard for good Ethernet cables. So next up, I'm going to have to say, pick the best host you can. So once you've all done the previous optimization steps, you all got wired if you can, or you've got the best wireless you can, you've done all the other things I've said so far, make sure whoever's got the best connection hosts the game. So basically this is just to stop whoever has good connections being limited by the worst one. For instance, if 7 of you live in the US and 1 guy lives in New Zealand, maybe the guy in New Zealand doesn't host the server because it's going to mean that everyone else lags, and although it's going to be good for him, it's going to be bad for them. Maybe get someone in the US to host. Conversely, if you're all in the same area, it doesn't really matter locationally who hosts, then maybe just make sure whoever has the best connection, do speed tests, host it. It's basic logic like that. Try and make sure whoever has the best connection hosts, because then everyone can get the best connection they can from him, rather than everyone being limited to the worst guys. This can generally help, especially if someone has a really bad connection, then they're still going to lag, but at least everyone else doesn't in return, and that's, something that's worth having. So assuming you've done the previous 4 steps, you should probably have the smoothest connection you can right now. However, it's still worth saying, if everyone still has chunk loading errors and it's not fun for them to play in a massive world, something that is worth considering if you're building your own maps, or even if you're doing like a survival thing, make a small map as possible and make sure you use chunks correctly. Basically, the world loads in chunks, and if those chunks gank people slowly, you can still have the most fun you can on the chunks that are currently loaded. So basically what I'm saying is make the most of your chunks and use small maps. So if you want to work out out how to make the most of your chunks, make sure that you use all of the chunk boundaries. So to find a chunk boundary, they start at a multiple of 16 for positive numbers, that is, and then go for 16. So for instance, go from 0 to 15, 15, and that's a chunk. Go from 16 to 31, 31, or 16, 16, 31, 31, that's a chunk, and stuff like that. 16 by 16 blocks, which start at, a multiple of 16, so 16, 32, and then they go all the way up to the one just below the next multiple of 16, or 47, etc. This is hard to explain. I'll put something on screen that makes that a lot easier. And then, yeah, that's how you do positive ones. And then for negative, it starts from negative, plus 1 from the plus 16, all the way up to a multiple of 16. So negative 1 to negative 16, negative 17 to negative 32. Again, hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, then hopefully the diagram on screen explains it, and I'll add some stuff to the description too. So yeah, once you've used all your chunks correctly, then even using an area like 9 chunks, it's still going to be massive and more than enough for pretty much any PvP game you're going to need. If you need to do something big in survival, something like 25 chunks, it's still a massive area. If you're just doing something which really is just like a PvP, like a Hunger Games, again, like 9, 6, or even 4 chunks can really get the job done, especially since chunks, they go infinitely up, or they go up to 256 blocks, meaning if you make a really vertical map, everyone loads it, and they can all see each other correctly, and this is a really good way to ensure that it's kind of like a big map, but then done in a way that everyone can load it. So, using these 5 tips, again, the first 4 are generally the easiest ones to do, but if you're like me and you make your own maps, the 5th one is a really good one to bear in mind. If you use all 4 of these, you should get a near perfect connection, or at least a very much improved connection. Again, if you have really big distances, so if I'm playing people in the US, there's nothing I can do, even though I've done all the steps personally. So yeah, hopefully one of these steps helps you. If they don't, you can always call your ISP and then complain until they give you better internet or something. But yeah, like the video if you liked it, share it if you really liked it. If it did help you out, please do let me know which one of them helped you in particular, because that would be just because it took me a little bit of testing, a little bit of basic knowledge, and working out and doing stuff to actually work out which method was the best. So yeah, that'd be very much appreciated. Thanks for watching the video, and goodbye.